Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Succession Without Chaos. I'm Curtis Brown, CEO of Tier 1 Level Consulting, and joining me today are my partners, Marcia Jones and Robert Ross. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to address one of the most important and most avoided challenges in our industry: how to transition your business, your clients, and your legacy without disruption, without uncertainty, and without loss of enterprise value. Whether you're 5 years out or thinking about this for the first time, today is about giving you a clear, structured path forward, one that protects your clients, your team, and everything you've built. And toward the end of the presentation, I'm going to introduce you to a succession planning AI-powered strategic co-pilot. So make sure you stick around and learn about that. Let me now turn it over to Marcia Jones, my partner. Marcia?
Thanks, Curtis. Structured framework to guide advisory teams through a deliberative phase transition is integral to a succession plan. The risks of unstructured transitions can create client attrition, leadership confusion, revenue concentration risk, and service disruption. However, a structured plan can assist with client trust that remains intact, which is a key element to your success, leadership continuity, ownership transfers that are smooth, as well as the team continues to grow in a very proactive way. This happens, if we would, over time, and this graphic describes how this transition actually takes place. It first starts with the senior partner having the greatest amount of influence, and ultimately, over a period of time, enables the successor advisor to gain in influence, and the senior partner ultimately becomes a mentor and serves in a legacy capacity. Whereas the senior advisor, over that same period of time, gains greater influence and ultimately becomes the full primary advisor. The goal at year 5 is that clients trust successor trustee, and you're going to be hearing more and more about that key element of trust, that the successor trustee has clear authority, and that the retiring partner takes on a mentorship and a legacy role. There are actually 5 phases to this journey of succession that we'll go into in a little bit for each. Phase 1 is succession awareness. Phase 2, succession alignment. Phase 3, leadership development. Phase 4, a client relationship transition. And phase 5, ownership and legacy transition. I'll discuss the first 4. First, phase 1 is succession alignment, where there is an assessment that is taken of the team and a documented summary of the team's transition readiness, including a timeline confirmation, successor identification, and a full client relationship and revenue dependency gap. We want to be able to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what that timeline is, that we identify who the successor actually is going to be and select it formally, and to assess where the client revenue and dependency actually takes place. This is one of the key deliverables for that first phase, and a very important transition that has to take place in order to set you up for phase 2. Phase 2 is where we're shifting our focus internally, where the successor begins to shadow the senior advisor. However, they participate in all senior level decisions as well as strategy sessions so that they begin to understand the nuances of the client relationship. There's beginning to have an authority shift where internal decision making begins to be input where the senior and the junior advisor becomes more collaborative. in terms of, and begins to a formal transition in terms of the decision making. And then, of course, there is a structure so that the new leadership structure is communicated to the full team so that there is clear transparency. And the deliverable for this phase is a formal document outlining this new leadership structure, the decision authority, the boundaries, the team reporting lines, everything that is actually laid out so that there is no question relative to the leadership. Phase 3 takes us to client transition, where we're introducing the successor to key relationships. And this very often is the longest and the most consequential phase of the implementation timeline. Phase 3 is where the relationship transfer really begins to take place. The successor is systematically introduced to the key relationships, beginning with the most receptive and progressing to those that actually require a little bit more time and care. So you have key client introductions, you have joint meetings in terms with a specific cadence. You have the successor beginning to lead some of those planning conversations. And in this phase, your deliverable is a client continuity strategy that is documented for every key client relationship and a mapping that states what that transition timeline actually is going to be. As we move into phase 4, we have ownership and retirement, where we actually finalize this equity transfer and formal announcement. And this deliverable is a legally executed agreement covering equity transfer, compensation structures. The senior partner is engaging and in a definitive role, and client communication that actually takes place relative to the protocols. So this phase then leads us to phase 5, which is legacy. And I'm turning it over to Robert, who will be able to share more of these phases with you.
Thanks, Marcia. That was a terrific overview of the first 4 important phases. So, the key to a successful transition, the 5 pillars that determine transition outcomes are really important. So, regardless of the firm size or the timeline, every successful advisor succession shares 5 foundational elements. And when any one of these pillars is missing or underdeveloped, transitions stall. Clients sense uncertainty, the team loses confidence, and the value built over decades is put at risk. So we want to just be really clear and walk through them again. Client continuity, very important that the successor is introduced to the client well before the retirement occurs. Early introductions and gradual relationship transfers are non-negotiable. The leadership clarity is really about the team. The team must know who's going to lead the practice going forward. Ambiguity and authority can undermine morale and client-facing effectiveness. It could even cost you some team members. The structured ownership transfer. Obviously, you want to be happy with the money, with the equity and the compensation transitions. Most firms have a plan that many advisors follow on how to transfer your equity and future cash flows. Team alignment is really important. Roles and responsibilities, expectations must be transparent across the full team, not just between the 2 principals. You really have to bring everybody in whose lives and daily activities are going to be impacted. And then lastly, what's really important to the senior partner is the legacy preservation. The senior partner transitions into a mentorship and advisory role, and it helps protecting the culture, the values, and the most important relationships. It really is important for continuity. So the key milestones for a smooth succession. Just to reiterate, number 1, start early. We suggest at least 5 years, but you can start earlier than that. If you haven't started early and you're already into thinking about it, but you don't have that much time, today is the best day. The best client trust gradually. Build client trust gradually. Clients need to see the successor as their advisor before day one. Number three, transfer leadership before ownership. Responsibilities shift before equity changes hands. Number four, communicate transparently. Everybody needs to know what's going on, no surprises. And then lastly, if you do these things, you protect the legacy. You preserve the relationships and the culture and the enterprise value. And the client continuity is really the key to success. Trust must transfer before retirement, not after. The most common and most costly mistake in advisor succession is waiting too long to introduce the successor to clients. By the time a retirement is announced, clients who have never meaningfully interacted with the successor will shop. They're going to look elsewhere. So the goal is for the successor to already be a trusted, familiar presence well before any formal transition announcement is made. Every year of early introduction is a year of reduced client attrition risk. So the leadership clarity is really important to the team. You've got team members, maybe other FAs. You've got CAs. You may have some analysts or financial planning partners all on the team. Everybody needs to understand the roles that they play and how things are going to happen going forward. And so when leadership succession is unclear, the team will fill the vacuum with assumptions, often incorrect ones. Junior advisors align with whoever appears to be most powerful. Clients ask questions that the staff can't confidently answer. Internal tension builds, and this is the chaos that we talked about. And the transition that was meant to strengthen the firm instead creates friction. So the value of clarity is really important. A clearly communicated leadership transition where the successor's authority is publicly endorsed by the retiring partner removes ambiguity before it can take root. Staff confidence follows clear structure. When everyone knows who leads, the firm operates with cohesion rather than uncertainty. And so, one of the best practices is that the senior partner should make this announcement. It should be clear. It should be unambiguous. Everybody needs to understand who the successor is. And ideally, this happens early in the timeline so that the team can calibrate before client-facing transitions begin. This is the internal housekeeping. And so the fifth phase, structured ownership transfer. Ironically, a lot of teams put this up front somewhere. They talk about the money, the cash flows, and how it's all going to work before they're actually prepared. It's so important that this come later. So now equity and compensation transitions can be handled more clearly. So first, the equity valuation. Agree on a fair and documented methodology for valuing the retiring partner's equity stake and early in the process. The compensation transition. Outline how compensation evolves for both parties, splits changing and things like that. Responsibilities and ownership shift over the transition period. The buyout structure. Define the payment terms, financing arrangements, any earnout provisions tied to client retention metrics. And then lastly, the legal documentation. Most firms will have a framework to help you and guide you through this process, and they all have pretty well developed plans because the firm has a vested interest in seeing the clients retain, the business grow, and the advisors all being happy. So team alignment and legacy preservation. Culture, roles, and responsibilities that outlast the transition. Team alignment is clear, so defining roles clearly, communicating early, invite questions. The legacy preservation. The mentorship role of the senior advisor is very important. The culture documentation. It helps the clients feel like things are going as planned, and even though there's a big change, everything is going well for them. The client relationship standards are in writing, and everybody is doing what they need to do. And lastly, client relationship history. There's a lot of institutional knowledge on the team that the senior advisor has compiled and developed over many, many years. That history, those preferences, and the relationship context must transfer. And that's where you want to get this done in this last phase. I'm going to turn it over to Curtis to talk about how AI can help us do this even better.
Thank you, Robert. So what this slide does is it really illustrates the future of advisory succession. Long gone are the days where everything is intensive paperwork. So one of the things we want to do is we want to show you some easy ways to make that transition. Now, all of you who are participating today will receive our playbook on succession planning to help guide you through the process. So the traditional succession model was kind of a broken bridge, meaning that it created gaps in continuity, both for the clients and for the firms. And those of us who have managed offices, complexes, and regions fully understand that. Knowledge is trapped in a single leader. That leader has the institutional knowledge about the client relationships. So when that leader walks out the door, that knowledge walks out with him. So the transition becomes very, very critical that the successors understand the nuances of the client relationship. So the AI enabled solution is going to systematize expertise for client continuity. It's going to help develop the next gen advisors and preserve the culture. And it's going to help you and enable you to build scalable enterprise value. Now, before we move into the demo, we've developed a tier one succession planning GPT. GPT in AI terms is a generative performing transformer. Basically, what it does is consolidates specific information so you don't have to go all over the world to try to figure out what is my best methodology for transition. It's an AI powered strategic co pilot designed to help advisor teams assess readiness, identify risks, and build a clear transition roadmap in minutes, not hours. It brings structure, consistency, and intelligence to what is often a very complex process. Now, I could probably spend 2 hours talking about the AI enablement, but we don't have that much time. So I want to give you a quick overview. And then if you'd like to contact us to do a walkthrough, I'll be happy to do it. So let's go to screen share here for a moment. And I'm going to share with you what we've come up with. Okay, so what I've done is I've already laid out the succession planning GPT. And what this does is it helps the financial advisor and teams assess succession readiness, identify risks, build a structured transition plan, and generate a readiness score. And clients trust the transfer strategy and a roadmap to protect the enterprise value and client relationships. Now, there's a series of pre-prompts that are very visible in this GPT, which is all embedded AI. But what I've done is I've created 10 prompts within the document that can respond to your questions. But you can ask it anything simply by prompting. But since we don't have a lot of time for that, let's go into some of the pre-prompts and look at this. So help me build a to 5 year succession plan for my practice. So basically, you click on it, it's going to go right into the 3 to 5 year succession plan for your advisory practice. It'll get into the situation, framing, and assumptions. And what you can do is you can modify any of the assumptions right here in this section by just asking or prompting to provide you with additional information. So if any of these are off, you can ask it to refine some of the situation framing. The succession plan overview then is modeled. It's a phase transition model covering the 5 core phases that we talked about earlier. Then there's the 5 year succession timeline, which is advisor focused. And it'll take you through what has to happen in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and it will provide a key outcome for each of those phases. And then you get into the 5 year exit legacy phase, and then the client trust transfer strategy. So this will take you through a whole timeline of developing your succession strategy for your team and your senior advisor. Now, what this will also do is it'll prompt you to further customize this into a fully built plan with timelines, client segmentation, and a revenue transition model. So let's just prompt it and say, develop a sample transition plan. So now it is going to provide you with a fully built succession transition plan, giving you a summary of a sample case and what takes place, your transition plan, your client transition plan, everything would be identified. Now, one of the very interesting things is you may need an agreement between your partners on your team. So I'm going to just jump and ask it to provide a sample agreement. So what it's going to do then is provide a sample succession agreement. Now, you can put in your own data, an overview of your practice, your team structure, your succession structure, any events that would be triggered, okay? It would fully lay out the items that should go into an agreement and including your valuation methodology, buyout terms, the ownership transfer, the governance. And again, once you pull this together, you will probably want to review it with your attorney. And as you get to the end, you can see there's a space for signatures. And so there's disclaimers that it should be reviewed by legal counsel and compliance before implementation. And if you like, they can customize the agreement to your exact practice, meaning your AUM, your revenue mix, and your succession structure. Now, notice that I probably was able to put all this together in less than 30 seconds because I have inputted intellectual property knowledge into the GPT to be able to do that. All right. So there's so much that I can share with you in regards to this. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to contact me. So I'm going to stop the share for a moment and we'll go into the final couple of slides. So the next steps, confirm your retirement timeline, identify who are going to be your leadership successor or successors. Try not to have everybody retire at the same time. That makes no sense. Map your client relationship dependencies and begin to introduce the successor to key clients. Remember, on a $10 million team, a 3% attrition in client business that goes out the window, out the door, can result in a lost revenue of around $300,000. So introducing the successor FA to key clients early is vital. And so the best time to begin succession planning is 5 years before it's needed. The second best time, if you haven't gotten started, is to start thinking about this today. The next slide. So in closing, as we wrap up, here's the bottom line. Succession's not an event. It's a strategy, and the teams that win are the ones who start early, act intentionally, and execute with discipline. And if you'd like a copy of our succession playbook, including the client trust transfer strategy and revenue assessment, we're making that available to the participants of this session. And I encourage you to take the next step, schedule a conversation with us at Tier 1, and let's ensure your transition is not just smooth, but value enhancing for you, your clients, and your legacy. So I'd like to thank all of you for your time today. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
All right. Thank you.